What is going on, everybody? Mock Draft Live is back, and we are better than ever. I am joined by the Mistake Fixer, the editor at Player Profiler, Seth Diewold. Seth, what's up, my brother?
Not too much, man. It's nice. It feels good to be back on Mock Draft Live with the new age alpha dog, Matty Kiwoom. It's glad to be back. I know our last Mock Draft Mania kind of went out in a blaze of glory, so hopefully we can redeem ourselves on Mock Draft Live. It's not our fault that the Tuesday display clogged all of the toilets in the draft house. It's not our fault.
No, it's not our fault. I mean, our mock draft mania went to literal shite. So there's nothing we can do about that if the sewage is going to back up mid-stream. But there's nothing we can do. But I am also here. I am Matty Kiwoom. If you didn't already know, tonight we have a 12-team Superflex tight end premium mock. The room is ready to go. Seth, are you ready to get this thing carack-a-lacking?
I'm always ready. We have the landing spots now. Let's roll, baby. Let's get it.
I know, our first mock draft live with landing spots. This is going to be fun. And if you are ready for some mock draft hilarity, stick around because we're going to get this thing started. But before we do, let's hear from the Podfiler as he talks about the Injury Finder.
Now, as we at Player Profiler have become a full-blown machine learning company, the crowning achievement has to be the Injury Finder. We're now taking BMI data and injury history data and assigning a probability that a player is injured on any given touch. And not only can you see a player's fragility rating, their injury risk, we also have analysis from professional physical therapists breaking down all the major players that underwent surgery last year and what their rehabilitation looks like heading into 2023. There's a tool to compare players. There's a database where you can say, show me all the foot injuries, show me all the severe injuries, show me all the injuries requiring surgery. It provides you the key market intelligence to know what is the difference in probability that player X versus player Y will miss games this year. It's great for fantasy football, and it also just satisfies your curiosity as a fan. Go to the App Store, go to Google Play, download it. It's $5 every year just to reload the latest injury predictions and fragility ratings. The 2023 data is live now. Open your phone and get smarter.
Get the Injury Finder now. It's truly one of the most incredible tools in all of fantasy football. I mean, having the ability to potentially predict or at least game plan for injuries is something that we just have not seen in the industry. So the Injury Finder, once it hit a couple years ago, it's fantastic. So make sure you get that now. The draft is ready to go. The order has been randomized. We got my man Seth from the 104, and I will be taking on the 110. So I'll be taking on the back half of this draft. Let's get it going. All right, here we are. We are on the clock.
Yeah, gone are the days where, I mean, we can actually look at data now to predict injuries. It's kind of incredible.
It's super. Yeah, it's amazing.
Like gone are the days you remember, injuries are random. I got unlucky with injuries. No. There's an app for you. We have an app for that Player Profiler. So, yeah, I believe the new data launches tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But yeah, be on the lookout for that because that is quite the app, and I'm on the clock right now.
Okay. Well, the Fantasy Plumber in the chat says that his body is flashing red after his first baseball game. I feel you there, brother. If I want to even go play slow pitch softball right now, even wiffle ball with the kids, I might be, my elbow, shoulder might be jonesing. So Seth is up with the 104. Who did you take, Mr. D?
Well, it is a super flex. I took CJ Stroud, the number 2 overall pick. It was tempting to go potentially with a Jahmyr Gibbs or my guy Jackson Smith and Jigba. And Jordan Addison goes in front of Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's quite the pick there. A little bit too rich for my blood, but hey, man, I respect it. So with CJ Stroud, he gets, he's in Houston, and in these Superflex leagues again and again, I wasn't picking in the top 5 a ton, but when I was coming away with Bryce Young. If in some of my leagues, Bryce Young was going ahead of Anthony Richardson. So in some leagues, right. I saw Anthony Richardson fall a little bit, and I was lucky enough to get him in some leagues, but not others. But CJ Stroud there, I mean, in a draft where there's not as many quarterbacks as we would like, I think you have a quarterback that's going to start at least 3 years. So taking him ahead of some of the other options there is a layup pick. It's not sexy, but I feel like it's the right move.
Yeah, he might not have some of the upside. I know Cody, every time he's been on the show, has said that he doesn't really possess much of that upside. But again, he's super accurate, and it's really going to be up to the Houston Texans to build around him. If they can get the man some weapons, he can chuck it up. My man Jamie in the chat says, is the injury finder included in the all-in package? No, it is a separate app that you can get in Apple, the Apple Store, the Google Play, those type of stores, the Android store, and you get that separately. So no, it's not part of the all-in package, but it's definitely worth getting. I am up now with the 110, and now after the draft, I'm noticing my first true difference between the drafts we were running pre-draft to this one here now post-draft, because I'm able to take Mr. Will Levis at the 110 when he was routinely going up there in the top half of the draft. Now, you might be asking yourself, are you mad that he fell to the second round? Not really. I mean, he went to the team that we were all kind of thinking was probably the second option after the Colts. They don't have a ton of weapons, but they did get a very good offensive lineman in the first round to help him out. And what we've seen, I know it's basketball short and no shoulder pad season, but what we're seeing this kid over and over do is show how good that laser rocket arm truly is and how special he could potentially be. And in the Superflex format, I'm more than happy to get Will Levis here at the 110. Let me go ahead and pause this before another pick is made. So we just finished the first round. We'll do a first round recap, but let me just put a cap on Will Levis here. Will Levis has this misconception that he's a pocket passer, like a statue back there. Well, if you look at his athleticism score, 105 on playerprofile.com, that's actually the third best athleticism score at the quarterback position this year, and puts him in the top 30 in terms of athletic quarterbacks of all time. So he does have a sneaky rushing ability, and we've seen offenses from the Tennessee Titans kind of highlight a quarterback's ability to kind of get out of the pocket and get some yards. Is he going to be a killer on the ground like his fellow rookie quarterback Anthony Richardson? Absolutely, positively not. But I think he has some sneaky upside with his rushing. Definitely has the laser rocket arm. So to get him at the 110, I am all about it. Let's get back and recap round one. And then I got a question for you, Mr. Seth. Bijan Robinson was 101 out there. Anthony Richardson, 102. Bryce Young, you took CJ Stroud, Mr. 102 there at 104. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnston, Dalton Kincaid, Will Levis, Zay Flowers, Kendre Miller. I think these 12 guys is pretty chalk, especially with the tight end premium. Dalton Kincaid will probably sneak into that last few picks in the first round. So I'm really not shocked by who's there. But I got to ask you two questions about round one. Number one being, Superflex format, has the Anthony Richardson landing spot swayed you at all to maybe take Richardson over Bijan at the 101?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would take him 101 just because it's Superflex. That's the way I play, man. I go for upside. And, if you're at the 101 too, you think about your team, right? You're probably not that good of a team. Maybe you need a quarterback. And if you need a quarterback, certainly Anthony Richardson offers that upside that a Lamar Jackson offers, that a Cam Newton offered back in the day. Mm-hmm. And if you hit on that pick, and I know it's risky because Bijan's the safer pick, but if you hit on an Anthony Richardson, which I really believe in the player anyway, that is a player who's going to be way more valuable than Bijan Robinson, a year from now, 2 years from now. As unconventional as it seems, potentially. I don't think it really seems all that unconventional because I feel like he should have been the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft because of the talent, because of the upside that we talk about. I don't think it's crazy at all, Matty. In fact, yeah, I think a lot of it depends on team need. And if you're at the 101, likely you need a quarterback in a Superflex league, I'm guessing. And if you need a quarterback, you should be taking Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Matty Kelly was on the game plan about a month ago or so, and he was talking about the decision between Anthony Richardson and Bijan Robinson. And the way he kind of boiled it down, I think, is kind of where I'm at after seeing the landing spots and everything is if you take Bijan 101, you need to win now. The running back position is becoming this weird anomaly, whether it be the 108 in the NFL draft or not. You might get his best year might be his rookie season. After that, it's becoming more and more unclear on the stability of running backs, and the volatility of their health and their performance continues to get more and more erratic. So, yeah, if I'm going to take Bijan Robinson, I don't absolutely do not think that he's a bad pick. I think he's very much going to be a fantasy stud. He is the Dynasty running back 1 in Dynasty. But in a Superflex format, unless you had the luxury of somehow stumbling upon the first pick, yeah, I'm with you there. You got to go Anthony Richardson here because he's part of the long-term rebuild of your fantasy squad. If you truly earn that 101, meaning your team is dog doo-doo, Richardson seems like the pick for me there. I'm with you. Other question I want to ask you here about round 1, Addison over JSN. How do you see that going in 2023, and how do you see that over the long term in Dynasty?
Well, I mean, obviously, this is a guy that Addison is probably going to slot right into where Thielen was in that offense, and the pathway to targets and opportunity is just obvious there, right? And then, of course, Smith and Jigba, he goes into a situation with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But for the short term, Addison's probably the right answer. But for the long term, we get these guys for their entire careers. For me, Tyler Lockett's an aging player. Jackson Smith and Jigba, by far, to me, is the best wide receiver in this class. I would have taken Smith and Jigba there. I understand the Addison pick, but if you're at the 106, you're kind of in no man's land. So I think you should probably be taking best overall player. So I even think we talked about this on Player Profiler today, Jack Kavanaugh and I. We were talking about the fact that we believe that Smith and Jigba is going to be used in year 1, and that he could potentially be a value considering look at some of Seattle's moves. I mean, however we feel about the Charbonnet pick, he's a pass catching running back. They passed the ball more than they ever passed the ball last year. I don't know if Pete Carroll's turning over a new leaf, but it sure seems like they should. I don't know if they will, but they should crank up the passing volume. And if they do, that means there's going to be opportunities for Smith and Jigba, more opportunities than some people are projecting. So for all those reasons and more, I think Smith and Jigba was the pick. I do love Addison as the player. We're kind of picking between two great options. I think these are two guys that are going to be super productive, but Smith and Jigba's the pick there for me.
See, I think we're gonna have to settle on different sides of the fence here. Going in through it the whole process, JSN is my wide receiver 1. Coming out of the draft, he's probably still. I don't know. I guess I'm undecided here because I see Jordan Addison. They're the same age. They got virtually the same draft capital, but one guy went to a team that they passed more last year, but they still didn't throw the ball in the upper echelons of the league. And what I'm also a little worried about with the Seattle Seahawks is the fact that they can rush the ball a ton. They can just rely on a lot of rushes between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. They can run a lot, and their defense is really going to prohibit shootouts. I mean, those cornerbacks are going to put the kibosh on a lot of shootout potential, whereas in the other situation, Jordan Addison's team, well, they threw the ball the 3rd most in the NFL last year. Kirk Cousins was the 4th highest in pass attempts, 2nd highest in red zone attempts, and the Minnesota Vikings have vacated 107 targets in the way of Adam Thielen, and I think Jordan Addison can see every single one of those targets. So I just think he's a beast now, and I don't know if the long-term projection is going to be all that in favor of JSN long-term. So I'm starting to sway. I might be taking Jordan Addison over JSN. Now, Let's get this draft started. Everyone in the room must be like, come on, guys, let's get it going. So let's get it going. We are back on the clock for round number 2. Who's someone here that you hope follows you with just a few picks left before your selection?
Oh man,
You know, if you talk about it, it's about to be there, baby.
Yeah, and a tight end premium. I mean, it would be nice. Michael Mayer would be really nice, but there's a few receivers I like, but I mean, there's also, I mean, I'm in pretty good shape here, honestly, and now I'm torn between a couple options because there's a running back that I really love, and there's a tight end and a tight end premium that I like as well. So it would totally be on team need for me, but I'm just gonna go ahead and take the guy that would be at the top of the queue. As much as it pains me, Michael Mayer got the draft capital that we're looking for in an offense. You know, Darren Waller's not there anymore. Jimmy Garoppolo's not a quarterback that throws the ball down the field. There is a lot of vacated targets in the middle of that offense, and I see Jamie in the chat. Roshan. That's the player profiler on brand pick. If I would have gone on brand, see, I was torn. That's the other option, right? That I would be choosing from, and it's crazy to just talk about Roshan Johnson for a minute. Like, it's crazy, and there he goes at the 2.6, right? I was seeing him routinely go at the back end of the second round in my rookie drafts, Superflex tight end premium still. I mean, that was wild to me. I think mid-second round is about as late as he should go. I was considering him there because, I mean, all the talk about the Bears backfield, and we're going to have an article coming out about it here in the next week or so, breaking down the Bears backfield and how we feel about it at Player Profiler. We really believe that Roshan is going to take over sooner rather than later because he just does it all. And I mean, it's not like he was drafted in the 5th. I mean, he was drafted early in the 4th round. And I know I'm dominant. I completely switched the conversation away from my pick to maybe the pick I should have made. But
I don't know, though.
I just
a great pick.
Yeah, I think, I had good options there. I had really good options. But Roshan is really good. I mean, he's a really good player, and being a Bears fan, they talked about him, one of the scouts, and I know sometimes scouts can overreact, but they talked about him as a franchise pillar. Those 2 words were used to describe Roshan Johnson and how they felt about this guy. Now, I think that's a bit exaggerated because they did trade down out of the first pick in the 4th round, and you don't do that if a franchise pillar is there. But still, they like him a lot. So I think it's only a matter of time before Roshan takes over the backfield in 2023 for the Bears.
Yeah, I like Roshan there. I do believe that Michael Mayer is still my tight end 1 in the class. So grabbing him where you did, good process. But here I am now with the 110. And my brother, I am looking at a whole bunch of, I don't know what to do. Everyone that I had my eyes on has now been snatched up. I could reach at tight end, but our next tight end on the board in terms of our rankings is Luke Musgrave. And to be honest, I just don't think I'm willing to take the risk with Musgrave here in the 2nd round because we don't know, is it going to be Musgrave? Is it going to be Tucker Kraft? Is it going to be neither? Because they do have now 2 good young receivers and potentially a 3rd if Torrey or Dogwater Dubes can take a progression in their 2nd year. So I'm looking at here. Do I go with no ACL Spears? I'm gonna go with Josh Downs. We have him back-to-back in our rankings. Downs is kind of a weird prospect. We actually talked about it when Jack, Theo, and myself hopped on the Fantasy Wildcard Streamathon where we were raising money for the Mind charity. Great cause. So if you haven't checked that out, go to their YouTube and check that out. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool to be a part of that. But we were talking about the Indianapolis Colts, and they asked about Downs and versus Alec Pierce. And I very strongly would rather have Downs over Pierce, but I don't know if that's going to lead to a lot of fantasy production. I do love Downs, though. I mean, the kid was a baller. over 1,000 yards each of his last 2 seasons. Did that with 2 different quarterbacks, but he's small. He didn't really pop in terms of his speed, given his size. But, when you look at his workout metrics, 89th percentile burst, 87th percentile agility. I think that the pick on downs is betting on Anthony Richardson becoming more than just like a one read run guy. Downs is going to get the over the field targets, which I like. So grabbing him at the 210, I don't love it, but I do think it was my best potential pick here. With the others being backups, handcuffs, which is what we expect at the end of the second. But I mean, I was just a couple of damn picks away from getting the guys that I really, really wanted. Roshan was just a handful of picks away. Mims went right after that. Jaden Reed went right after that. So, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. But when you decide to do a draft with a bunch of sharps, you're going to have to do some sharp moves. So round 2 is in the books. We see A-Chain, followed by Mingo, Zach Charbonnet, Michael Mayer, Sam Laporta, Roshan Johnson, Marvin Mims, Jaden Reed, Rashi Rice, Josh Downs, to me, Tank Bigsby, and Tajay Spears. Anything stick out to you at all, Seth, here, where you're like, this pick sucked, or this pick was a home run?
No,
other than Roshan, you've talked about Roshan enough.
Okay, I'm cut off from the Roshan bartender tonight. That's enough Roshan talk. So yeah,
go water for you, sir. No more Roshan.
Go home. You're drunk on Roshan. You've had enough.
No more of the Malort over in Chicago, Mr. Seth.
Hey, I try to make every show a bear show, as Matt Babich knows on the Writers Roundtable. But now I think this is all fine. Like, I don't really have a pick. I mean, if I were you, I probably would have been tempted just to go running back, Tank Bigsby there. But I don't mind the Josh Downs pick at all, because I actually wrote up Alec Pierce for the draft kit. And what I noticed about Alec Pierce is he's not very good. His efficiency is not very good at all. So I don't know what they were doing, but I think Josh Downs potentially can slot into that offense and be a better player than Alec Pierce. So I think, with Anthony Richardson, I know he's a run first, well, not run first, but a mobile quarterback. So that potentially takes some attempt or receptions or targets out of the offense, and especially in year one. But I don't mind that at all for the long term. So I think everybody did fine here. We could probably talk a whole episode about Zach Charbonnet and, going there at the 2-3. Maybe I probably would have gone Michael Mayer there if it was me, or whatever tight end that you like. If I had to pick Devon A-Chain going at the 2-1, I guess I can't hate it that much. I'm just not a big fan of the player, but it's
the
fine.
Yeah, there in Miami. I mean, if there was a landing spot to get you to go, okay, fine, it's the Miami freaking Dolphins.
And that's exactly what we're doing at Player Pro. That's exactly the reaction that we had at Player Pro. Like, I guess we're gonna have to get some A-Chain. Dang it! But he's gonna have big plays. Sure.
Let me ask you 2 questions here. One, let's just put a pin on it. Roshan or Zach Charbonnet, both are on the clock. Both are there. You're on the clock. Who are you taking?
Roshan.
Okay, you love it. And then let me ask you this follow up here about the tight end. So we saw 3 go off the board. Is it a big 3 or a big 4 or a big 5 in your mind? How do you see this tight end class kind of panning out, even in your tight end premium leagues?
Yeah, I think there's 3 there, and I'm continually seeing Musgrave fall into the mid-3rd round, and basically going where he's going to go in this draft in a lot of my drafts. So I think there's a clear 3 with Kincaid being at the top. But, in some of these other tight end premium leagues I'm drafting in that are ultra tight end premium, Michael Mayer is going at the back end of the 1st round, and so is Sam Laporta, and I've taken him there, and I don't have a problem taking him there if it's a start 2 tight end or a two points per tight end premium, some of these leagues, because they got the draft capital. And, as a result, that pushes down, some of these other players like Mims and Rice and Jaden Reed that are continually going at the back half of the 2nd round. But to me, I think it's those 3. I mean, Musgrave in Green Bay with Jordan Love, and then they took another tight end and Tucker Kraft in the third round. This is just kind of a weird situation that I think is for good reason is pushing him down the board. But in the third round, I mean, I don't have a problem at all taking a shot on Musgrave if he falls to you because, you know, he is a super athletic tight end.
Yeah, we got some context here. Michael's in the chat. He's also in the draft room. He said he would have taken Rojo had Johnson fallen, but he went with Mims. So I love the insight here. Do you think, one last question before we get round 3 started, do you think we're all just a little too jaded when it comes to the 2 tight ends being drafted because of the Mark Andrews, Hayden Hurst situation? Or do you think that this is a cautionary tale that we should, you know, kind of invest in a little bit?
Are you talking about like Kincaid being like a first round tight end or like
more so about the Packers in general, like where we were talking about Musgrave, how we've kind of gotten more hesitant because Kraft went there. Are we just a little too snake bitten because we, you know, in back whatever it was 2018 or whatever, you know, logic would have said let's go Hayden Hurst over Mark Andrews. Cut to a year later, Mark Andrews is way better.
Yeah. I mean, potentially, I think each draft is a little different, and to take outliers like the Mark Andrews thing is probably a mistake. That, you know, you always try to capitalize on the whatever is most recent, and how, like you said, if people are snake bitten by a certain player, right? And it's a lot easier to do it. It's a lot easier to do in redraft. Like a perfect example this year, you know, is Cole Kmet, who had a terrible start to the year, but finishes the tight end 8 because his finish to the season was crazy, and it was great for you, especially in best ball.
Massive spike weeks,
yeah. So like a couple weeks where he finished like tight end 1, tight end 2. But anyway, I say that to point out that in this particular situation, right? Yeah, you're probably getting a value on Musgrave because people see the situation and go, well, look at the quarterback. They took another tight end if they liked him. Why'd they take another tight end in the third round? And then, of course, we had the whole narrative around first-round tight ends, which is like, come on, guys. Like all we can do really is look at the draft capital, look at the situation, analyze it to the best of our ability, and project forward what we see. And I think a lot of people make a mistake in Dynasty of not projecting it out far enough. Like we think about this in 3-year windows, right? So you have these players for their career, and yeah, I mean, a long-winded way of answering your question is, yeah, Musgrave is a value here in the third round, for sure, compared to some of the other players. Like, I mean, come on, like Cedric, a wide receiver in the third round. Chase Brown's there. I mean, some of these other players, even Jalen Hyatt, who some people like, I don't. So, you know, like it's crazy what happens sometimes in these drafts, and all you can really do is just take shots on who the best player is in the best situation at the time. That's really all you can do.
Yeah, we can only operate with the information at hand for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Seth, what do you say? Let's get this thing crack-a-lacking once again. And the clock is back on. Halfway done with this draft. How do you feel about your start? CJ Stroud, Michael Mayer in the Superflex tight end premium.
I like it. I feel like I got one of my favorite tight ends in the draft in Mayer. I also got a quarterback at, I got one of the quarterbacks that was taken in the top 5. So if I'm sitting at the 104, especially if I needed a quarterback, in a tight end premium, I get a good tight end. I feel great about it. So what about you? I love taking Will Levis at the back end of the first round. I know that's probably not a popular take, but I do love the process because it's not like he was like the Titans were trying to trade up into the first round to take him. So
right.
So I think the Titans like him a lot more than people think they do, because it's crazy what the difference between that first round and second round, like, it's just a couple picks, and like, would we feel a little bit differently about him if he had gone in that first round? I don't know.
I think if he would have gone 11th overall, and you are on the clock, so go ahead and make your pick, my friend.
All right.
Will Levis, I think if he went in the first round, I do think we wouldn't see at all a slide. in our rookie drafts. He did fall. Will Levis falling to the second round has allowed me to attack the back end of the draft and rookies drafts, and I've done it in multiple situations, multiple rookie drafts so far this season. I've jumped into the end of the first round to get Will Levis because I still believe in the talent. I still believe that he's a guy that can be a producer. Do I think he's going to ascend to that top 10 quarterback for fantasy right away? No, I don't, but he does have two hyper athletes in his offense. He still has Derrick Henry to rely upon in the backfield. And the guy is just a mega arm. He's just an absolute chuckarooski here. Cannon laser rocket arm. And I'm just going to buy into that. I'm going to be okay with that, even if he goes over to the Tennessee Titans. But what I like about the situation, Mike Vrabel is not going to lay down. He is going to try to win. And if that means Will Levis is the guy to get them the most wins, he will put Will Levis in week one if that's what his staff and that's what the play on the field and in the practice field is telling him. So I think that we do see Will Levis. He gets a nice chunk of games under his belt in 2023. And a buddy of mine, I was talking to him about the whole situation. He's very into, prospect grading and the draft process as a whole. And he says, we can't know this for certain. We're not plugged in or anything, but sometimes what happens in these drafts, the NFL draft I'm talking about, is teams don't scout a certain player that they don't believe is going to be there. So all of a sudden a slide can become catastrophic, and everyone and their grandma thought that Will Levis was going 104 to the Colts. Even the Colts said that if Richardson was off the board at 103, they were going to go Levis 104. So the Titans might have done their homework enough to say, hey, we don't have to take Will Levis at the 111. We can go ahead and put the brakes on it, go ahead and get Peter Skoronski, an absolute monster on our offensive line, and try to trade in at the end of the first. And then all of a sudden it didn't happen. They didn't need to. They traded up to get the second pick in the second round, and they got their guy. So getting Will Levis has been exactly what I wanted it to be. It's actually coming at a better price than I was anticipating just a couple months ago before we all convened in Kansas City. Now with my second pick, Josh Downs, this would have been the time where I put the old on the block tag on my 210, and I would have tried to trade out, get an aging veteran. Maybe I could have taken the 210 and traded it for, I don't know, on the spot here. Maybe I had another player I could have packaged, or another assortment of picks I could have packaged for like an Aaron Jones or whatever. I mean, it's tough to truly say, but I would have tried to trade out. Now here I am with the 110. You have also made your selection, but I'm going to go ahead and make my pick. Potentially a reach, but I don't care. He's becoming the guy that I am going to plant my flag on when it comes to this rookie draft, and that's Tank Dell. Someone I have been grabbing everywhere in the third round, even in the second round, if it's a deeper league, 14 teamers, whatnot. So yeah, Tank Dell is my guy here. Seth, you took Hendon Hooker at the 3-4. Talk about Mr. Hooker, man.
Well, I think he's a super underrated. Like, he's got some work to do as a prospect, but in a Superflex league, we're always looking for these quarterbacks that could be in advantageous situations. And if you compare him to some of my options, right? Okay, Cedric Tillman is a prospect I really like, but third round receiver. You remember that guy that was taken by the Cowboys last year in the third round, and we were all excited about him. And what was his name? Yeah, exactly.
Smolbert.
Yeah. So I'm just very, very skeptical with third round wide receivers. Jalen, I could have taken Jalen Hyatt, but I'm just not that big of a fan. I'm really not that big of a fan of Chase Brown. Like, there's just a lot of people in this particular tier. I honestly, and I don't know if I want to give it away because he's still on the board.
Table talk. We learned a lesson about poor table talk on Sonic Truth last week. Do not do it.
I know. Well, I mean, it's a mock draft, and I do like Hooker. I mean, don't tell my wife, but this kind of a hooker is just fine. Yeah, but yeah, and in Detroit, and Jared Goff had a good year, but this is perfect for Hendon Hooker. He gets to sit there, learn from a pro in Jared Goff, and develop in what is a very exciting Detroit Lions offense. And we'll see what the plan is for him. We don't know. I mean, all we can do is, kind of sit back and wait. But I mean, he's a stash, and like I said, when you Evan Hull, nice pick. That would have been that's who I was debating. It was between him and Evan Hull there at the 3-4.
Okay. So now you don't have to worry about table talk. You can talk about it. So before I talk about Tank Dell, why don't you talk about this third round? You talk about Evan Hull if you'd like, or talk about a surprise. But it seems like, again, pretty chalk round. I mean, we're definitely drafting with some really sharp guys. Like, I know Aaron St. Dennis is in there, the FF president John Adams is in there. So we got some astute guys. We got our man over there, Edward DeLauder. I'm sorry, he's always on Writers Roundtable, but I never can say names right. Is it DeLauder? I'm sorry.
Edward, I believe so.
Eddie, I love you.
He's also an attorney. So if you need some legal,
don't sue me. Don't sue me. Actually,
if you need some legal,
I got my man Rob in the chat. He can defend me. I don't know. I'm an idiot here. I can't pronounce names, but great pick with Evan Hull. So what do you think about Evan Hull? Talk about him.
I mean, if you're gonna take a chance on a running back in the third round, I mean, you look at his profile and it's impressive, and then you look at the situation he was drafted into in Indianapolis, handcuffed to Jonathan Taylor in an offense where the offensive line took a big step back last year. I mean, but still, I mean, now you got Anthony Richardson in that offense with Michael Pittman, and they draft Josh. I mean, there's some pieces to this offense that are really exciting featuring Anthony Richardson. So if Jonathan Taylor goes down with an injury, nobody wants that to happen, but it could very well be the Evan Hull show. I mean, who knows? I mean, he has the profile that we really, really like. Super athletic, catches passes, super productive, all that stuff. So definitely a guy that I liked a lot better than some of the other picks out there. I think Israel, as much as we like Israel Abanikanda, you think about some of the running backs in that Jets backfield. Breece Hall, it looks like he's projecting toward a week 1 comeback, but they're likely going to ease him in. But you remember, they have Michael Carter there too, who they like. And they also have this guy, remember Zonovan Knight, who was taking opportunities away from Michael Carter. So that is a loaded backfield where there's not going to be a ton of opportunities. Zach Evans is an interesting prospect to me. I think he looks a lot better on tape than some people think. I like him a lot better probably than a lot of the people at Player Profiler do. And then Chase Brown, like some of these other running back, like Chase Brown, like I said, I'm just not a big fan of it all. So, if I had to rank those running backs, I'd probably rank Evan Hull ahead of all of them. I don't know if that's hot takey or not, but
you know what, Seth? I don't know if it's hot takey, but I'm certainly going to back you up there. When I see these 4 running backs, Hull, Brown, Evans, and Abanikanda, I'm going to take Hull because he is a JT stub toe away from a ton of really, really high-end volume. We've seen, Deion Jackson. We've seen Zach Moss all produce in this offense with this offensive line. And now you insert a mega athlete like Anthony Richardson, which could take the ceiling of this offense to a whole new stratosphere. And when I look at Evan Hull, he's way more athletic than Tyler Algier. And that's what kind of makes me very excited about a guy like about Evan Hull. Similar kind of tape, in terms of Algier at BYU and Hull at Northwestern. Good runners, good effective pass catchers. Algier was a 5th-round pick, so was Evan Hull. So if there was an injury to Jonathan Taylor, I could see a late push for Evan Hull to be a guy that really helps teams get across the finish line. So Evan Hull there, getting him at the end of the 3rd round was a great pick. Another snipe, in my opinion, was Tucker Kraft. I was hoping he would fall into the 4th round. He didn't. Luke Schoonmaker went in front of him, which I wouldn't do. I would rather wait on Kraft than Schoonmaker. But again, another guy off the board with some potential there in round 3. But Tank Dell was my target once I hit the unpause button for round 3, and I was able to grab him because I am willing to be a little aggressive on Nathaniel Dell. I'm a big guy. I'm a big fan of narratives. Okay, I'm a sucker for them. You talk about the breakfast narrative, Stafford and Cup. Talk about the Disney narrative. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts. I love me some narratives. And if you believe the narrative surrounding the Houston Texans was after Stroud was taken with the 102, he immediately started petitioning for Tank Dell. You need to get me Tank Dell. Go get the leading receiver in the nation at the University of Houston. Now, he's not the biggest guy, 5'8", 165. And my man Rob in the chat says, I am building an all-Smurf receiving corp. He hit the nail on the head right there, buddy. Because I don't think if you put the two together it would equal one Darnell Washington. But again, I like what I'm seeing from Dell. Matter of fact, on this last episode of the Game Plan Saturday on Sunday, special day, we had a mailbag episode, and one of the questions asked was, "Who is my sleeper right now?" Tank Dell is my sleeper right now. The guy that I want. You can get him, in FFPCs. His ADP's after 300, so you can get him at the very end of your drafts in your startups or your redraft leagues, anything like that. Back-to-back seasons with 1,300 receiving yards. I mean, you're talking about a mega producer. He had a college target share last year about 31%. That's 91st percentile. So he can handle the volume. And now he's going to get a chance to work out with the franchise quarterback all summer long. And when you look around at who's catching passes, you have Dalton Schultz brought in on a 1-year deal. Everyone's calling him this the new iteration of Austin Hooper. So that doesn't really pop as an option there. You have Nico Collins, who's kind of been okay. He hasn't really broke out in any way. John Mechie, we're all rooting for him wholeheartedly as he comes back from, battling cancer and everything he's gone through. So we're rooting for him, but we don't know how his play will be once he gets back on the field. And then Robert Woods, they gave him a sizable contract. But, I mean, I think it's not that crazy to think that they brought him in to be more of that mentor, to be that veteran presence, to be a little bit more of a safety net for a C.J. Stroud if no one else emerges. But I think Tank Dell can emerge as the leading target getter in Houston. And grabbing him in the 3rd round, I'm all about that. Best route runner in the class. And if I'm going to bet on someone in round 3, give me someone who has a trait that's better than everyone else in the class. So give me Tank Dell. Now, should we get back in there 4? Or do you have anything you want to add about round 3 before I hit this unpause button?
Well, I just want to tell you that I also wrote up Robert Woods for the draft kit. And I don't know what it is about the players that were assigned to me, but I got some pretty inefficient players. I don't know what that says about players. I don't know what that says about how Theo feels about me or not. I think maybe it was random. I hope it was random. So I hope they were not like, let's give all the players we don't want to write about to Seth. I hope that's not how it went, but hey, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. But to speak to Robert Woods, right? And if you look at Robert Woods, his efficiency went down the toilet last year. So I know that the Texans signed him to a relatively good deal, but he played in all 17 games and he only saw 90 targets and he didn't really do much with those targets. So in this, to speak to this Texans receiving core, you need to be taking shots on a Tank Dell in your draft, in your rookie drafts. You need to be taking shots on Xavier Hutchinson. These are players that are almost free in the case of Tank Dell, virtually free in the case of Xavier Hutchinson. If you're doing a 4, I don't know if he'll get drafted here or not. But
no table talk, Seth. We can't be doing table talk here.
I know, I keep breaking the rule, but I'm saying, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't kill you for the price. It's all about price, and it's all about the pathway to opportunity. And both with Tank Dell and Xavier Hutchinson, and even in redraft, Nico Collins, John Mechie, it doesn't kill you to take shots on these guys because they don't cost anything.
And Michael in the chat says, remember when someone did the same thing for Clyde Edwards-Helaire? But let's also not get it twisted. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was running back 20 on a points per game basis his rookie season, which was completely propelled by the situation. So I'm not here, sending flowers to Clyde Edwards-Helaire's way. But let's remember that sometimes when a really good player calls for a teammate to be drafted, it can be beneficial. So would I want the same trajectory for Tank Dell to CH? No. So, Michael, you're right. We do have to proceed with caution, but it wasn't all bad for fantasy purposes.
There's a big difference between taking a player at the 101, which is where Clyde was going, than taking Tank Dell at the – is that what we're talking about here?
That's a good point. That's a very fair point. Yeah, so I think the overall point that Michael's trying to make is be
I get
cautious,
it,
which
yeah.
we will back up. But you are right, though. It's a big. We're not talking about the same thing here. We're just not. So let's go. Let's go see. What do you got?
Believe that was a thing that happened, man? That the 101.
It happened in my rookie in my home league. CEH went 101. Taylor, Swift, Akers all followed after that, and the fantasy manager that took CEH. I mean, he's kind of been in a hole. He's really been trying to dig himself out of that because it was a massive difference in terms of what he was able to produce in fantasy. So, yeah, cautionary tale. Got to remember that. Keep it in the back of your head. Let's do round number 4, the fourth and final round tonight. Thank you all for tapping in and sticking with us through round 4. I'm excited to see how this pans out. I got to make my last pick here at the 4. Tizzy, and we'll see what happens here. But you've mentioned one guy. We won't rename him because we won't hit table talk here. But, okay, now we are underway. We've seen now.
Who did I say?
I'm not going to say
remember.
it. I'm not going to. You trying to lure me into your bad etiquette? Don't try to lure me into it.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Oh, the guy.
Okay.
I don't know. Did I technically get sniped? Can you get sniped in the 4th round of a mock draft?
No, you can't. No, you can't. But, I mean, in most rookie drafts, you could have theoretically traded up to the 4-1, so let's just say, because once Hall was off the board, maybe you would have been a little bit more antsy for Dwayne McBride, who I'm assuming was the person that sent you into a bit of a tizzy.
But
now you're on the clock.
Pick.
Go ahead and make your last pick, and then go ahead and talk about the player whenever you're ready. You make Eric Gray. So why is Eric Gray your pick there at the 4-4?
Well, in the 4th round, I like to take shots on running back, and I know Eric Gray didn't test the way that we wanted him to, but he passed the film test, and he can catch passes, and there's a clear pathway to some opportunity, which is what I liked about Dwayne McBride. Because, I don't know if you guys know this, but Dalvin Cook, I hear some people talking, right? And apparently Dalvin Cook is almost guaranteed to be one of these post June 1st cuts. Wow, this is a rough segment for me, speaking wise. So that bumps everybody up the depth chart, including Dwayne McBride. So that was a great pick. Eric Gray, taken, I believe, in the 5th round. There's Saquon, who's going through a weird contract negotiation right now. And then there's Matt Breida, and then there's Eric Gray. So if for some reason, they don't figure out a contract, if Barkley's holding out, if Barkley ends up getting dinged up, there's going to be opportunities there for Eric Gray in year 1. And no matter how you feel about the prospect, you could not like the prospect, but if he's going to get some opportunity, there's a chance there to potentially cash out of Eric Gray if he's going to get that opportunity, to score fantasy points in some weeks. You could sell him potentially for a future 3rd, maybe even a 2nd. I've seen crazier things happen, so I think that's a good process move.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's one of those where it's probably one of the least sexiest picks you can make in your rookie draft. But, save yourself the fab. People, listen to me and listen good. Sometimes the rookie picks are really there to help save you some fab. A 4th round pick, you're not looking at a super stud by most. The chances of you locking in a stud there is so minimal. So grab the guys that you can save yourself some fab. And if Barkley decides to sit out or he gets hurt, Eric Gray has the skill set to come in and truly be a benefactor of that injury. And how much would you have to spend, Seth, if you don't draft Gray in the 4th? Let's say week 4 comes around and Barkley's hurt and Gray's out there. What are you spending there? 75% of your fab? You're going to be spending almost all of it to bring him aboard. So why not use your late pick and grab him? And so here we are. Here I got 20 seconds to make my pick. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to.
Do you need to pause it? You want to pause it?
No, I'll make my pick, and then because we're gonna talk about guys who are left on the board that maybe we liked here. So I'm going to make my pick. Right. Haven't gone with a running back yet. We'll go Sean Tucker. So we will talk about Tucker. We will talk about round 4, and then we will talk about a couple guys that maybe didn't go draft that week still have an eye out for, someone that we will try to grab after this draft. So what after this pick, we'll put a bow tie on this whole thingamajig. And I firstly got to say, Seth, this was a great episode getting back into it. I feel great.
I know we dusted off the cobwebs, right? I think we did a nice job. I might have stumbled over I got maybe a name or two wrong, or I mixed up a team, but I think it flowed pretty well. I think we did okay, and it looks like the chat's happy. I mean, for the most part, I from what I see. So yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments.
Yep.
Like, did I do well? What pick did I screw up? How bad is Sean Tucker? We want to know. Like, leave your comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and all that stuff, because Player Profiler is going places, and we want you to be there with us when we go to those places.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want a free trip to the dang moon, right? And that's where Player Profile is going.
Yeah,
the dang moon. So with my 4th round pick, I was again. Can you say you were sniped in round 4? No, but Bennett has been my go-to pick in Superflex rounds 4 and 5 because he is going to play football in the NFL this season. He will get starting reps for the Los Angeles Rams, no doubt about it in my mind. Deuce Vaughn was another guy that I've been tracking in round 4. Apparently, I don't like guys who are above 5'8". I want you to be shorter than 5'8". I want to have the entire clan of the Lollipop Kids. But Sean Tucker falls to me. He's had a whirlwind of a draft season. Rumors of a heart condition has continuously floated up, and we can only hope for the best for this kid. But this was somebody I think we were all very excited about. Going into his 3rd season at Syracuse. 2,400 rushing yards combined over 2021 and 2022. 500 receiving yards combined over those 2 seasons. He's scored 27 total touchdowns. He looks great. He looks electric. But again, he didn't test, wasn't able to really show anything. The numbers that we're using on Player Profile are the ones we could get our hands on. So I'm going to use them, and I'm not going to completely negate him. I mean, we have him at a 4.44, 91st percentile, 85th percentile speed score, and he put up 28 bench reps. So the kid's strong. And he goes to a team. I know he's an undrafted free agent rookie running back, but he goes to a team with Rachaad White, who we like. But after that, I mean, who are we going to get excited about in Tampa Bay? Chase Edmonds? I ain't doing that again. I won't get hurt again, Mr. Chase Edmonds. So, again, 4th round, we're kind of just taking a bunch of lottery tickets. But if I'm going to go with the lottery ticket, I guess I'll be okay with Sean Tucker. But how do you feel about round 4? Anyone surprise you here in this round 4?
Well, I know I tongue-in-cheek there when I was mentioning the chat and stuff. I think your Sean Tucker pick is a good one for all the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, if you check out his profile on playerprofiler.com, you see some pretty impressive stuff. I mean, you see good size and like 90th percentile 40-yard. He ran a 4.4, super productive in college. And a lot of it has to do, I mean, we were talking about Sean Tucker being a bad pick in the 2nd round of your rookie drafts, right? Now you're taking him at the end of the 4th round. It's all about cost here. Like we were talking about with Clyde and why that was not a good comparison, although I got the sentiment of the point, right? When comparing Clyde to Tank Dell, it's like, well, one's a 3rd round pick. Anyway, you get the point. Yes. But it's all about cost and it's all about opportunity. So you broke it down really well there. So that's why I like the Sean Tucker pick. Now, I do also there's a few other players that I liked here. I already talked about Dwayne McBride. I think Kayshon Booty.
No, lean into it. He says it's Kayshon Booty. You got to lean into it.
All right. Baby. I see. I think that's another fine swing to take in the 4th round. I also like Trey Tucker quite a bit as a wide receiver. So those are a couple guys I like. And then, Tyon Evans is interesting. I mean, there's a lot of really, and of course, Stetson Bennett, like you mentioned, there's a lot of good. I think our drafters did a really good job here in this 4th round, taking swings on guys with a pathway to opportunity, with some upside. And I mean, even Tyler Scott and Charlie Jones there to round out the round, I thought were I mean, Tyler Scott could find a role in that Bears offense. I mean,
Mhm.
Darnell Mooney's in a contract year. We'll see. I think they should resign him, but we'll see. Same thing with Charlie Jones and Tyler Boyd. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is really more of a strategy take more than a specific player take, but that's why in these rookie drafts, the ones that I've been in too, I've been okay with taking my 210, let's say, and trading for a third and 2/4, or taking a third for 2/4, because what you can do is you can stash them on your taxi squads. If you play in leagues with taxi squads, you want to have the shots like A.T. Perry and Kayshon Boutte and Charlie Jones. You want those guys, you throw them on your taxi squad, you wait a year and you see what you got. So I like these picks. And like I said, Stetson Bennett, if you don't take him in your Superflex leagues, you are going to have to pony up some fab to get him when he becomes the starter, because I just do not believe Matthew Stafford is going to stay healthy. That elbow is such an issue. And and on the other side of the coin there too, why wouldn't they want to see what they have in Stetson Bennett? They're going nowhere fast. They had a really good draft considering, their lack of early round picks. So why not see what they got in a kid with Stetson Bennett? And every time the guy plays football, he can throw it deep. And Sean McVay's an offensive genius, so maybe he can get you some productive weeks. So I think that's such a good pick in round number 4. Kayshon Boutte, love that pick in round 4. Mike Reese, who's a beat writer for the Patriots, he works at ESPN. So me being from Massachusetts, I get all the Patriot news, and I like to listen to see what's going on. And Mike Reese says there's a lot of comparisons being made around the league with Kayshon Boutte and Stephon Diggs. Not the Stephon Diggs that we use in fantasy today on the Buffalo Bills, but the 5th round pick out of Maryland, where he showed some promise. And Boutte, like him or not, he definitely has the skills. Going into the college season last year, he was projected to be up with Addison and JSN. So it was a huge fall from grace. But that is baked into his value there in the 4th round. So I love that pick. All right, one last question before we say goodnight to all these lovely folks watching. Name one player and tell me why you still love this player, even though he was not drafted here in these 4 rounds.
Well, I think my guy didn't get drafted, did he?
No, he didn't. I was hoping you would talk about him.
So can I talk about him?
Yes, you can. The draft is over, my friend.
Right.
It's your turn.
All right. Well, I kind of already talked about it a little bit, but my guy Xavier Hutchinson, I know he's a receiver, and I typically like to go running back in the later rounds for some of the reasons I mentioned, because these are guys that you're going to pick up off it's going to save you some fab money, the running backs, and it's harder to identify the receivers that are going to step into these roles. It's easier to identify the running backs. But Xavier Hutchinson has a clear pathway to opportunity. It's not crazy to think that he could beat out a Robert Woods or John Mechie. I hope, obviously we're all rooting for John Mechie, but
for sure.
It's not crazy to think that Xavier Hutchinson could beat him out. Same thing with Tank Dell. And Xavier Hutchinson also has size. He's a great route runner, and he might get hooked up with a rookie quarterback that is looking for a security blanket in a way. I mean, Xavier Hutchinson's not going to blow you away with his speed, but when you watch him play, and I know I've said it a million times on Player Profiler, but I'll say it again, he just gets open. He just finds a way to catch, contested catches, gets open. Just on tape, he just pops off the screen. And so I know he fell to the 6th round. I'm not sure why, but he, like I said, you're just taking chances on guys you believe in that could potentially get opportunity. It's probably not going to happen for him, as much as that pains me to say, because he's a 6th round receiver, but it doesn't cost you anything to put him on your taxi squad, to draft him in the 5th round, to pick him up off the waiver wire. And to just speak briefly about what you were saying about Stetson Bennett, that Rams team is not going to be very good this year.
Right.
So that's another reason why potentially Matt Stafford is not going to play the full season. I mean, isn't this the first year in a long time where the Rams actually have their 1st round pick? Or am I wrong about that?
Yeah. I think since Nam. They haven't had their 1st round pick since Nam.
So, yeah, ever since I think they traded for Jared Goff, they haven't had their 1st round pick. And so you can see it with the way the Rams build their roster year after year after year. I mean, they push their chips in, and they depend on a lot of day 2 and day 3 picks to hit. and that offensive line's not going to be as very good. And they've got Cooper Kupp, but you look at the defense, there's not a lot of pieces there anymore. I know they still have Aaron Donald, but this is a team that could be trading a Cooper Kupp, that could be trading an Aaron Donald at the trade deadline. And if your team's not competitive, why trot out Matt Stafford? Why not see what you have in Stetson Bennett? Or like, don't tell me like they might not tank for Caleb Williams if that's on the table, because they absolutely will. And so that's going to be one of the more fascinating things to watch. But for all those reasons, that's why Stetson Bennett is, I think, like you said, likely going to get an opportunity.
Real quick in the chat, Jamie asks, Hutchinson over Parker Washington. Real quick, just say yes or no.
Yes, for me, yes.
Yeah, I think it is for me too. For all the reasons why I love Tank Dell, if I do get sniped on him, I will take Hutchinson a little bit later, because there is a path. You have a few outs there where he could become a producer for the Houston Texans, even if it is for a year or two. But my guy that is left off the board, I'm going to go with Elijah Higgins from Stanford, who is now a converted tight end. It really just comes down to his athleticism, the team that he's on, and the depth chart that they have at tight end. 4.5, 4.40, which is 95th percentile, 86th percentile speed score, and a 124.3 burst score. That's 83rd percentile. Kid's an athlete. He was dominant in college, 70th percentile dominator score. He had a 20.7% college target share, so he can handle a little bit of volume. And when you look at the Dolphins depth chart at tight end, Durham Smythe, Tyler Kroft, Tanner Connor, Eric Sobert, who's 30 years old and really hasn't done much in his career. I mean, there is a path to where Elijah Higgins can be the starting tight end on this roster within a year. So if you can grab him in your 4th or 5th rounds, take him. I mean, he was the 3rd most athletic tight end in this class. So if you need to take a shot on someone super late, give me Elijah Higgins. Now, Seth, that's going to wrap it up for the comeback episode of Mock Draft Live. Tell the people where they can find you on socials and where they can get all your content.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Seth_Diewold. Follow me for Bears takes, Cardinals rants, other, lunacy, like ravings of a madman, whatever you it's all there for you. So if you want to see me lose my mind potentially on game day. Also, you can follow me on YouTube, same name, Seth Diewold. On YouTube, I'm going to be posting content there throughout the summer, getting you guys ready for Dynasty, startups, redraft stuff. And as always, you have to be plugged into the Writers Roundtable Wednesdays on this show, on this channel, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. And last thing, go do yourself a favor and check out the article section on Player Profiler. We've got a lot of talented writers. It's all free. They give you great stuff. I have the pleasure of reading it, all of it, and it's made me a better fantasy player. It'll make you one too. And go sign up for the all-in package. Use promo code Seth or Matty, whichever one you like, whichever one of us you like more. Like, just go use that promo code. Which I mean,
it's a real Sophie's choice here to end it. I love it.
Sophie's choice. Oh yeah, wow. Okay, that's it. That's my 1,000 plugs. What do you got, Matty?
Well, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Matty Kiwoom. My articles also come out on playerprofile.com. Check out the game plan each and every Saturday. Also check out Trade Gods with my man Jason Allwine. And while you're in the checking out mood, Cody Carpentier and I started a Patreon called The Executives. So go check that out, Patreon/Executives. Me and Cody bringing all the content that we can provide to you, the patrons. So check that out. That's going to be it for Mock Draft Live. Tune in next Monday. These shows will be coming out once a week, each and every Monday at 7:30. The hosts will be rotating. You'll see some of your favorite Underworld personalities hop on. So choose or come on back next Monday. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you, allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All-In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.